So Thanksgiving is coming up, and I decided I really wanted to make something special for Hannah to wear at Thanksgiving dinner. Something handmade, and that would be special. So I figured it's a technique that I used in college when making sorority shirts, so I'm pretty comfortable with this kind of applique. It's pretty easy, and I wanted to show you guys step by step how to do it. So quick, hurry, you only have a couple days till Thanksgiving, but the same idea can be used to make holiday shirts just by cutting out different shapes of fabric. So here is how I made Hannah's Thanksgiving turkey onesie. So the first thing I did was I raided my scrap of fat quarters, and I cut little pieces of fabric that are about 3 inches by 4 inches. That's enough to fit 2 of the feathers side by side, or you can rotate them. And then so I have 5 of those. I think I'm probably only going to do 9 feathers, but that way I have 10 and I can mix and match to figure out which one I only want to have 1 feather of, if that makes sense. So then the material that I'm going to use for the actual turkey, I cut roughly 3 inches by 5 inches. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to lay them out on a piece of Heat and Bond Light. This is a sewable, fusible interface, and basically what it's going to do is it's going to act like the glue between the onesie and the feathers. I'm still going to sew around the outside, but this is just going to bond, I guess, the fabric to the onesie. So what I did was I cut out a piece that was just slightly smaller, hopefully, than all my fabric pieces, and I'm going to show you how to lay them on and what precautions to take. Okay, so you have your piece of fusible interfacing, and you set it down on your ironing board with the paper side down and the rough sticky, it's not sticky, but it's going to turn sticky when it gets hot, but the rough glue face up. And then you're going to take your fabric and you're going to lay it down on it. This is kind of hard because this fusible interfacing is creased, but I'm going to lay it on it and I'm going to overlap the fabric. The goal is to have none of the sticky stuff visible, because if you iron over it with the sticky stuff, it can get on your iron face. So that's what I'm going to do now. Okay, so I have the fabric all laid out, but just to be careful, I'm going to cover the fabric with a piece of, just plain printer paper, and then iron over on top of that, just to be careful. Okay, so I covered everything with the 8x10 paper, and now I'm going to iron the paper. What this is going to do is it's going to heat up the glue that's on that fusible interfacing, and it's going to bond to the back of the fabric. And that way, when I position the little fabric feathers on the onesie, all I have to do is iron it again, and that glue will stick to the onesie. It also makes the feathers a little stiffer, and it also helps me iron the fabric that I'm using so it's nice and smooth and not wrinkly. So it's very, very helpful. This isn't a necessary step. You could just sew the feathers directly onto the onesie, but this is going to make it a lot easier. Okay, I'm going to keep ironing this until it's all bonded. Okay, so now everything is fused on to this sheet, and I'm going to let it cool just a little bit so that it gets a little firmer. Right now, if I lifted this up, the glue is still kind of warm and it would lift up, but let it cool. And then what you're going to do is flip this over, and you're going to take your feather template and draw it onto the back of this, and then you can just simply cut it out. Simply cut out your feather that you drew on, and it'll be nice and stiff. So let me show you that part. Okay, so this is the template that I'm going to be using. I have this picture, I saved it a long time ago. I don't know where I got it from. I know that it was off someone's blog. If you recognize this image, let me know and I will give you credit, but I have no idea where I got it. What I did was I took it in a paint, and I erased all of this stuff on the inside, so it just kind of left the outer outline, and that was basically just to save printer ink. I didn't need to know that this whole thing was brown, I knew. And then I put a whole bunch of feathers around, just in case you needed more than one. I just cut out this one up here, and that's what I've been using. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out this turkey as well and start drawing them onto the back of my fabric. Let me show you. So I used my feather template, and using just a basic pencil, I drew it onto the back of the fusible interfacing. You can see the fabric kind of through it, and you know, I alternated them up and down, but you can do them, the fabric is wide enough that you can do them side by side if you have a pattern that you don't want to appear upside down. The great thing is that you can kind of see through this, so you can take advantage of things like this piece right here. There's butterflies, and so I wanted to have this be the tip of a feather. So you can see it, that's the tip of a feather. And also this right here, because that's kind of the only color on that swatch. But the rest of it didn't matter, you know, if it was upside down or not. So now with the turkey, I cut him out, and you know, I didn't bother cutting out the little jagged parts on the top of his head and the bottom of his feet, but I will copy those onto here and cut them out, obviously. I made this piece of fabric a little bigger so you can move it around. Obviously, you know, you could probably make it just 3 by 4 if you were kind of, you didn't have a lot of fabric. So yeah, let me trace this out, and then I'm going to cut all these feathers out and the turkey out, and we're going to start positioning them on the onesie. So I stenciled this out, and I added little accents of the hair tufts. So now I'm going to cut it out. The easiest way I found to cut them out is to do a straight cut here up until the curved, and then cut across the bottom and cut up, and then working with the back part back here of your scissors, cut around the curved edge. That's probably the easiest way to do it. Alright, so I've cut everything out, and if you'll notice though, Turkey's missing something. So he needs eyes, a nose, and his little feet. So I have this scrap of fabric that goes alright. I'm going to take advantage of this area right in here, where it's just brown on brown, and make him some feet, and probably make his beak out of this material. I'm going to try to find some white for the whites of his eyes, and then since Hannah has blue eyes, I am going to use a little bit of this blue that I have left over and make the little color part of his eyes. And then I'm going to lay it out on the onesie, and I'll show you where I'm at then. Okay, so when I'm trying to add fusible interfacing to the back of a tiny piece of fabric like this, I like to make a sandwich. I put a piece of, you know, printer paper, and then I put my fabric face down, put the fusible interfacing, glue side down, paper side up, fit it on there, then cover it with another piece of paper. I do that so that none of the glue will get on either my ironing board cover or my iron. It'll be trapped between the paper. Okay, so I'm laying them out on the fabric so that they're kind of, you know, the pattern that's going to show up on the feet will be similar. I also want to remind you not to stop cutting here, but to leave a little extra, because that's what's going to be tucked underneath the turkey. I'll show you what I mean in just a second. So I traced the feet onto the back of the fabric, and if you can see, I connected these two. I'll cut it in half. That way there's just a little extra to tuck up underneath his little feet, or his little legs. Alright, so that's what my turkey looks like so far. I used the template for the legs, and then or the little feet, and then I kind of custom made them a little smaller. And I freehand cut the beak, kind of, you know, just looking at how his beak was, and cut that out. And now I need to work on the eyeballs. Alright, so I cut out the eyeballs using scraps of a white fabric and the same blue that this feather is. So it's got blue eyes. And here's the turkey over here. So now I'm going to prep the onesie and then start laying everything out. Okay, so over on my ironing board, I brought my onesie. It is just your basic Carter's 6-month onesie. It's cute enough. It says hugs, but you know what? It's going to be cuter this way, so I'm repurposing it. I folded in half a piece of plain printer paper and put it between the front and the back of the shirt so it's inside the onesie, and ironed it so my surface is nice and smooth. Okay, now don't make the mistake that I just did. I always do that. I laid out all my feathers, but I forgot to take the paper off the back of my feathers. So don't do that, because then you just have to rip it apart and lay it back out again. So also another thing to keep in mind, you know, taking out the paper is really easy, but take it off from this end, because when you're trying to separate the fabric from the paper, it might fray the fabric a little bit, and you don't want to fray it up on the tip of your feather where it's going to be visible. Do it, if anything's going to be frayed, do it under here where it's going to be hidden underneath the turkey. So now take all the paper off of all your feathers, and you might as well take it off your turkey as well, and lay everything out. Okay, so inevitably, once you have everything laid out and ready to go, your baby will wake up from a nap. So, since she woke up from her nap, Hannah is going to be joining us. Thankfully, she's not too mobile, but she does like looking at all the things in my craft room. So, alright, now, so we have everything laid out, and what I'm going to do is lay my turkey down, because you want to think of this in layers. The feathers and the feet are going to be the first layer. The turkey is going to be the second layer, and then the eyes and the beak are the third layer. And that's the order in which you're going to iron them down. So you need to have your turkey, your feathers laid out, and figure out where you want your turkey to be on there, and then put your feet on. Okay? So I'll show you this when I have everything ironed down. The nice thing about my craft room is that it overlooks the backyard, and I can watch my husband doing yard work. Okay, so I used the turkey to figure out where to iron down the legs, and so I have level 1 all affixed to the onesie, right? That's in the feet. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do just a simple straight stitch around each of the feathers, and I want to do that before I put the turkey on. So I have three threads. I'm going to be using just a basic white bobbin, and I guess I'll do purple, purple, green, green, maybe a green, and blue, blue. And then I gotta get a brown to stitch this. Okay, so if you look closely, you can see that all of the feathers are stitched down. I decided to go ahead and hand stitch them because it was easier with a baby than to be stuck at a sewing machine. So I hand stitched them, the feathers and the feet. And over here I also stitched on the nose, and I stitched on the blue of the eye to the white, but I haven't stitched down the white yet. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to place the turkey, and then I think eyes really give you a personality, so I'm going to rotate these around until until he looks cute. And then I'm going to cover it with a piece of paper and iron the whole thing down. So the next time you see it, it'll be on Hannah.